we're back. We're now in a post-Cena era. This is the first Raw, I guess, post-Cena, still kind of reeling from that whole thing. But I think, once again, we actually had a pretty decent Raw. I don't think he was on the level of the last couple of shows, just kind of in the build-up to the Cena event, but I think we're still kind of keeping that pedal to the metal right now. Started off with Gunther coming in and absorbing all of the heat, that everyone's been wanting to throw at him since the results that happened on Saturday. Man. So like this segment kind of reminded me similar to kind of when Reigns and Taker had their WrestleMania main event match, and then that post match promo essentially on the Raw following, the crowd letting everyone know kind of their displeasure with Roman. And we had a similar thing, I think, in here, but with Gunther, who is absolutely reveling in these boos, man. It was super fun to see him come out, essentially, and just, like he said, he made John Cena tap out like a little bitch, And the thing is, too, is the fans, they're not gonna let Gunther forget that he did also tap out to Jay. And I also think that little wrinkle will actually prove to be something bigger, I think, down the line, and something that we'll get into Gunther's psyche, but that's for another time. I think it was great that he didn't have like some long droning promo. He just kind of basked in the hate that the fans had for him for doing what he did to Cena. Gunther right now is kind of posed to be the top dog, the top monster right now in the division. So I think anyone he kind of sets his sights on, it's kind of over for them. As he goes to the back, you see him have interactions with Otis and Tozawa, who are annoyed of what he did, and want to pick a fight. And then you have R-Truth as well, who is extremely disappointed in Gunther's gloating. And then you have also Adam Pearce, who eventually then kicks him out because of how disrespectful he's kind of being. Low-key kind of doesn't really make any sense. He didn't really do anything wrong. He just made Cena tapped out and is just gloating about it. That's not really bad. When faces do that, it's usually seen as fine. But, I guess just kind of to follow the mood of everybody else, Pierce does kick him out. That is where I think we have the most interesting part of this segment. It seems like we have a new challenger kind of stepping up to Gunther in AJ Styles. And I love if this is kind of the legend killer gimmick they're going for with Gunther. AJ is someone who's going to also be on his way out. Him and Gunther would have an amazing match since they're both like at the top of the game. AJ obviously is sunsetting, but he's someone who likes to be at that top, right before he goes. So he's trying to maintain that, and he still has. It would be extremely interesting to see if Gunther and AJ have like some sort of mini feud, or maybe closer towards when AJ Styles starts to wind down and that retirement tour that he might be doing next year. We'll have Gunther kind of try to one up what he's done with Goldberg and Cena, and also end the career of AJ Styles. I love this. I think this is awesome. I think Gunther is the prime heel right now that should eat all of these W's, so that we have him built up for an Ilya or a Mello or whoever's next in line to really become a top face. I think Gunther right now is in that mode where they're building him to be an unstoppable force, a Brock Lesnar kind of like force, which I hope means that eventually those two down the line will face as well, and that Gunther gets the W after chopping the hell out of Brock, because that's an old man too. I don't care how genetically gifted he is. Gunther is going to put that man down. I'm just super excited to kind of see who will kind of challenge Gunther next. I wonder how close they'll do the AJ Styles match, to the Cena match. I think maybe we'll taper off a little bit and try to tease that like they did today. But super awesome opening segment, super reminiscent of the Reigns and Undertaker kind of promo that Reigns had on Raw, where he was just like, it's my yard now. I think it was just as effective. I think more people at the time are more pissed off about the booking and stuff in general, whereas here Gunther has, I think, more legitimate heel heat. There's still people who are pissed off at the booking, but I think that's just the fickle fan base who doesn't really. I like I've said, I think the ending was perfect, and it makes sense if you actually pay attention and think about it and think about what Cena wants. If you're a fan of Cena in terms of not just the superficialness of the literal words never give up, but what it actually meant to him and how Cena portrayed that throughout his career, makes total sense. We then had a tag match between the Usos and the New Day that was advertised the week before to kind of see who will be vying against AJ Lee, the tag champions. Another just fun match. The Usos and the New Day have great chemistry with each other. This isn't probably not their best match, but it was a really fun TV match. A couple false finishes and stuff, but super enjoyable. And I'm kind of looking forward to more of the tag teams, being featured and being bolstered, and hopefully we get like an actual feud or storyline going down the line, because it just seemed like after that, with the Usos kind of winning, we had AJ Lee talking to Adam Pearce about setting up a match for them to, I guess, run with the Usos for the tag titles, which is cool, but like we're not getting any storylines. It's just straight kind of contendership and then title matches, which doesn't give any heat or fire in these matches, so we don't really care until like the bell rings, which is cool because these guys are great at wrestling, but I still think there needs to be some more heat going into the tag team division, especially when the women's tag team division is really starting to spice up like that. Speaking on that, we actually had Rio kind of come out, both Rhea and Io come out to maybe address the crowd, but then they are ambushed by the Kabuki Warriors to kind of further that feud. Not really much of a footnote in terms of elevating the feud or continuing what's happening, but the result of that is that Rhea is going to be facing Asuka next week in retaliation to getting misted on the way to the ring by Asuka and ambushed by Kairi. They do a whole assault. Io sacrifices herself to take the elbow from Kairi in the ring to save Rhea. Super good heel moment to get more heat on the heels and the tag team champions right now, as it is kind of crazy how they're almost overshadowed by the amount of teams now that are kind of vying for the tag title. Kind of further that line, we did have a segment between Lyra and Bayley as well, kind of hinting towards how Bayley felt in that loss to Soruka the night before. Excellent match, by the way. And Lyra kind of now knowing how to tick off Bayley and trying to get that ding dong idiot kind of version of Bayley out to be more ruthless and to maybe go for the tag titles. And it seems like they're kind of slowly inching that more forward, and I do hope that they kind of start to mix it up with Alexa and Charlotte and Rio and the Kabuki Warriors more. I think next week, if we were to get some sort of interaction between the Lyra and Bayley and maybe the tag team champions or maybe some of the face teams, it would be a lot more interesting, and I think we would see the thorough line of possibly those two also putting their hat in the proverbial hat into the tag team championship division. Kind of crazy to see how both tag team divisions are starting to ramp up, and it seems like they want to bolster them kind of moving forward. So that's always good to see, because then you always get great tag team wrestling on TV, and that's kind of what we got this week, especially with the Usos and the New Day. So moving on from like tag team stuff, we also had essentially a Judgment Day segment kind of further showing kind of what the women in the Judgment Day are kind of focusing on. JD and Finn not there this week because JD's unfortunately kind of hurt. With that, we kind of get Dom kind of gloating over the fact that in the main event we have Rey Mysterio and Logan Paul due to the stuff that was happening last week, so he can't wait to see Rey Mysterio get his butt kicked by Logan Paul. And in that, we also get that Raquel is also facing Stephanie Vaquer later that night for the women's title, and Raquel is being hyped up by Liv, while Liv and Roxanne are going to be focusing on the tag title. So we have an obvious kind of trajectory for this current edition of the Judgment Day, and I'm hoping, especially with the Liv promo that she had last week, which was really awesome, that we constantly just have more relevant Judgment Day stuff that's not just relegated to like mid-card fooling around and which seems to be happening here, going for the tag titles, and Raquel going for the women's title. To speak on the women's title match that did happen between Stephanie Vaquer and Raquel, decent match, but kind of a vehicle to further, I guess, Nikki Bella, who wanted to get some payback last week after Raquel kind of jumped the line, proverbially so, and attacked Nikki Bella for her shot at the title. Nikki kind of does the same thing in the middle of Stephanie and Raquel's match to then kind of do the angle of she is the respected legend, and that a lot of these guys now are not giving her that due respect that she deserves, being a Hall of Famer, being the longest reigning Divas champion of all time. There is accolades there. She is a Bella as well, by the way, so there is kind of a lineage, or not lineage, but history with her and her sister essentially being in the WWE. So I'm glad that they're finally leaning on that, and that she's considering herself an OG that's been through it all and has done it. So these women, should be, cleaning my shoes, you know what I mean, or shining my shoes, which I kind of love that. I think Nikki as a heel is so much better than a face, you know what I mean? I just feel like she really leans into it, and she really grows such an attitude, and it's super fun. And I'm looking forward to maybe a gimmick match between Nikki and Stephanie. I know a lot of people aren't the biggest fan of this, but I think it's great for Stephanie to really have these feuds to build up her credentials, because she is someone who's already at the top of the card. But I think to give her heat and to give her more connection to the fans, she needs to have these moments in feuds where she's like being ruthless, where she's feuding and getting in the dirt with Nikki. I think that will give Stephanie Vaquer a lot more wrinkles in her character that she can then use to pull forward to make it, to make her complete package even stronger, so kind of looking forward to that. I'm hoping it's a gimmick match between Nikki and Stephanie if they do want to run that again down the line. We also had the women's IC title match between Maxine Dupree and Ivy Nile, which I thought was an excellent match. Ivy Nile is an amazing, athletically gifted wrestler. Like, already she's so naturally like just gifted, and she's so like strong, you know what I mean, too, like super gnarly. Maxine also with the new kind of dark black look with everything and kind of the fire that she has now kind of going into these matches, absolutely like fantastic. The whole kind of transition from Maxine being that comedy character to this now serious, trying to learn kind of champion, this wrestler's wrestler, I think is awesome. And I think the vignettes and everything hyping up to this match, we're building this division, we're finally doing something to give these women like something to do here. And I think that this match between Ivy Nile and Maxine is a perfect example of that. Ivy Nile unfortunately does come up with the L here. Maxine does retain her title, not in a bad showing by far, and Maxine just starts to show her ruthlessness. There's a couple of spots in here I really liked. There was a reversal that Maxine does to Ivy Nile, where Ivy kind of had Maxine in a little bit of a kind of like I guess some sort of submission, and then it was reversed into kind of like a head scissors pile driver, almost Canadian destroyer like maneuver that Maxine almost got the win out of. So just a lot of really cool spots. The ending with her not being relentless on the ankle lock was super fun, and her finding out multiple ways to continue holding that lock. Super great wrestling, and I'm very invested in the IC title right now, just because of the journey it's had and what they're really doing to build and elevate this division and this mid-card division for that title. Just good stuff. Maybe eventually Natalya will eventually throw her hat in there, and then we'll get that faded Maxine Natalya match, which I think will slap, especially if they want to talk about the relationship and how that Maxine's been growing, but maybe it's Natalya waiting for the perfect moment to then strike and have her own opportunity. And to kind of move on from that, we kind of do get like a little bit of a vision segment right before like everything goes down. Kind of essentially Braun wanting to really chomp at the bit to get to CM Punk, since he's been announced for tonight, who will come out later in a promo. And essentially both Paul and Logan are like, hey, don't worry about that. You will be getting him on that January 5th. You don't want to take him out before that time, because you want to be able to, fight him for the title. Logan's trying to say, hey, look, maybe the Masked Man will come out, help me out during Rey Mysterio's. Let's focus on what we have now. Paul Heyman also questions Logan on who this Masked Man is, like what's going on, if this is just a benevolent force that we're able to use for our own, And eventually that is answered. First, I'm going to go kind of over the CM Punk promo right before this that happened. CM Punk does come out and kind of respond to the last couple of weeks of Braun Breaker promos, kind of calling out CM Punk, calling out his wife, saying that he wanted 2011 Punk back. CM Punk kind of fires back on all cylinders, saying that even the only way you could have ever pinned me was through the help of the Masked Man, through the help of Lesnar, through the help of all these people to even get this shot in the first place. For you to say that you want the 2011 Punk, you're not even ready for 2025 Punk, right? Which, great fire promo. Kind of reverses the Steiner math thing on Braun as well, with going a GTS. All I need is a 1, 2, 3. I love that whole thing, and just great fire from Punk. Punk has always been a great real promo, and he can make any kind of feud feel legit and personal. And both Braun and CM Punk have done a really great job these past couple weeks of really building this January 5th match, because I think, especially with the storyline that was happening, it was kind of a whimper, with this whole like Seth getting kicked out. But I think both Punk and Breaker have done a really good job on making this feud feel like personal and heated. Kind of later in the night, essentially with the main event of Logan Paul and Rey Mysterio, we have kind of a crazy finish where CM Punk does try to come out to help Rey Mysterio after a bunch of the Vision cronies, Braun and Bronson, come out to help Logan Paul. And in all of this confusion, the Masked Man arrives again, curb stomps Rey Mysterio, and helps Logan Paul get another win this week. Now he's beaten LA Knight, and now he's beaten Rey Mysterio. We finally get the reveal of the Masked Man as he's running away due to Punk coming back to try to chase him out. He reveals himself solely, and it is Austin Theory, like we've all been saying. However, the reveal that was done here, I think, was fine. I think the fans enjoyed it. They're finally happy that there's another wrinkle in the vision, and that, you know, it's someone who kind of does need this opportunity and chance. And I think Austin, so far, especially with the shaved head, the look that he had, man, he seems really ready to indulge in this vision. Maybe they all try to go for gold. You know, maybe we have Austin Theory now and Bronson, or we have Austin Theory and Logan going for the tag titles, and then we have Bronson going for a singles title. We can have an evolution kind of situation here where we have multiple feuds kind of coming out of the vision. Austin Theory being introduced, which is super predictable, but is fine. I think, you know, at least gives some more interesting context that can happen. And I think also Austin Theory as a Paul Heyman guy potentially is extremely interesting to see. And I wonder, you know, if there will be any promos or what's going to happen kind of moving forward with how Austin Theory kind of is with the vision, if he's really even on their side. After Austin is revealed, essentially Punk is staring up at him at the rafters, essentially, and behind, Braun comes in and spears CM Punk for the vision to stand tall at the end of Monday Night Raw, with the reveal of Austin Theory being there. Like I said, predictable, but I think serviceable and fun. Like, I don't think there's really a problem with, I think the way they did delay the Masked Man essentially has built up the intrigue of why he's doing what he's doing, and also, like, you know, us knowing it was kind of Austin Theory at the same time gives us time to be like, you know, to be ready for that, and for them to reveal it in a way that doesn't keep us disappointed necessarily, because we aren't sitting here hoping it's someone that would, like, you know, someone super significant that might be you know, opposing the vision. This is a wrinkle in the vision that allows them to kind of move forward and bolster their numbers as well, and maybe even, like I said, go for other titles. We'll see kind of what happens with that. I hope that Austin isn't just the guy who's there to take the pin. You know what I mean? I really do think that should be Logan's job. But we do have our Masked Man finally. In general, I think Raw was really good this week. Just another kind of brisk show. There definitely is kind of a void right now, I think, especially since we didn't really see Cody or anything in terms of like who that top face is right now. I mean, technically it is Cody Rhodes, right? But I think there would have been more meat to something if, besides Gunther, you know, coming out and doing his thing, we kind of had Rhodes or even Punk in his promo kind of established, like, even with Cena gone, you know, like, we still need to push forward and we need that next Cena. Like, some sort of kind of chase for that, I think, would be kind of cool to see, you know, visualize in the roster, you know, that hunger to be that next Cena, since, you know, that it's officially now gone. There's no Cena. But in general, decent Raw. I'm kind of looking forward to see what they do on SmackDown. We got a couple of cool announcements too. We're gonna have Javon Evans kind of on next week's Raw, you know, messing with I forgot, Uno or Dos, basically Pete Dunne, one of the Americanos essentially. And so that should be a really fun match. I'm glad that Javon Evans, because they know that dude is money, and he's so young but so impressionable, so eager to learn, and so respectful, and so fun, talented, charismatic. Like, the dude has a lot of it, and the fact that they're having him kind of mingle with everybody this early on, even before a proper call up, is excellent. I think that's exactly what they should be doing with NXT superstars. I do think Oba Femi should have a Kevin Owens like kind of reign as well on the main roster, with him coming up more just because of how he almost had, you know, Cody's number. You know, I think that should also be kind of stated and mentioned, and I think there should be kind of that slow NXT takeover to kind of reinforce the whole Cena thing of finding the next Cena. You know, I think there should be a narrative arc kind of moving forward about who wants to fill that spot, you know, who wants to fill that space. In general, we had a really good Raw. Looking forward to SmackDown on Friday. Let me know what you guys kind of thought of the Gunther promo, what you guys thought about Austin Theory's reveal, what you guys thought about him jacking kind of my fit, you know. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys on Friday.